Ladies and gentlemen, if you can please help me in welcoming back to the stage Corinne Pinter.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good, good, thumbs up, high five, yay, woo! I hope you guys had a great time last night, getting here, getting settled, eating, making friends, connections, playing bingo. Kids were wild, it was really good. Way to go, entertainment committee, way to go. I know this morning we had the moms and female caregivers get together and the dads and male caregivers get together. I hope you guys also utilize that time to make connections, meet new friends, kind of feel, especially for you first timers, like, wow, I am really not alone. And for you returnees, like, I'm glad there's somebody here that we can connect with and help and be of service to others. So today we've got a really great day planned for you guys. To get started, we're going to have a lot of information from the foundation. So with that being said, I'm pleased to welcome our president and CEO, Steve Taylor, to the stage.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thrilled to be here on day 2. I'm actually going to take a moment and talk a little bit about our 75th anniversary, but I want to show a video first. So we're going to cue up the video and enjoy.
Happy 75th anniversary, Arthritis Foundation. Happy 75th anniversary to you.
The Arthritis Foundation.
The Arthritis Foundation.
The Arthritis Foundation.
The Arthritis Foundation.
The Arthritis Foundation. We're wearing Arthritis Foundation pins here. May is National Arthritis Awareness Month.
Millions of U.S. adults have been diagnosed with arthritis, more than 300,000 children with juvenile arthritis.
We're taking a live look at downtown Albany right now, where tomorrow night several of the buildings are going to be lit up in green for the Arthritis Foundation.
This month is National Arthritis Awareness Month, and tomorrow marks the 75th anniversary.
We do really a wide variety of things. We provide free resources. The number one thing we're here to do is to make life better for those people living with arthritis and their loved ones.
The NASCAR Hall of Fame and the Wells Fargo building in Charlotte are lighting up green this Saturday. This supports the 75th anniversary of the Arthritis Foundation.
So tomorrow marks the 75th anniversary of the Arthritis Foundation, which provides info, community, scientific advancement, and advocacy in the name of working towards cures for the more than 100 types of arthritis.
Buildings across Atlanta are lit up tonight in green, from Atlanta's City Hall, Colony Square, to the King and Queen buildings in Sandy Springs. It is all in honor of the Arthritis Foundation.
Nearly 25% of all adults in the U.S. have some form of arthritis.
That's right, and coming up this weekend, the Arthritis Foundation marking their 75th anniversary.
Well, Houston landmarks glowed up green through the night on Saturday in support of this is all important Arthritis Foundation 75th anniversary. This is the perfect time to really reflect and acknowledge the tens of millions of people across our country living and thriving with arthritis.
Can we hear it for the hard work of the marketing team and our volunteers that helped make that happen? So as you'll see, there I am standing in front of the Moynihan Train Hall in New York City, one of our 50-plus locations that were lit up on May 6th to commemorate our 75th anniversary. So we were founded back in 1948, and we have made amazing progress, although there's still progress to be made and things that need to change for our kids as well as our adults that have arthritis as well. But thrilled with the success of our 75th anniversary kickoff that happened on May 6th, our official start date back in 1948. As you saw, great video of information, but I want to thank the volunteers that also served and went and spoke on TV around this country to help us increase awareness, and of course, the marketing team for getting all these buildings lit up. Just to share some stats with you on the 75th anniversary, we had over 52 iconic buildings lit up in 22 states. You saw some of them on stage. I want to thank those that helped us get those lit up, especially the governor of New York, who worked on many campaigns in New York State to get lit up, including Niagara Falls that you saw. I want to thank our influencers that helped around the country as well, and especially want to call out Natalie Decker, NASCAR race car driver who's here, and you saw the NASCAR building was lit up. So thank you, Natalie, for all the help that you give us as well. Natalie's down front. If you haven't met her, Natalie is a JA kid herself, grew up racing go-karts, moving on to NASCAR series. She'll be here later with her NASCAR. She's here now, but she'll have her go-kart out there from when she was 8 when she raced. And she is an amazing story, an amazing ambassador for us in the organization. So thanks to people like Natalie, we've been able to increase awareness as well throughout this year for our 75th anniversary. We also had over 50 broadcasts covered us around the country, and over 140 press releases and 350 million readers just on the May 6th event alone. And of course, we have events planned for this entire year as we commemorate our 75th anniversary. What I want to do is talk a little bit about our 75 years of progress before I bring some special guests up that are going to I'm going to talk to them about some of the work that we're doing at the organization, and then encourage you to write questions on your white cards on the table. As you have them, raise your hand, and we have runners that will come get them. And we'll be able to answer some of those questions at the end of the panel presentations. But as you'll see on this slide, research is making a difference. We have made amazing progress over 75 years. You'll see just since the 1970s the progress we have made. That was a camp picture taken at one of our JA camps where kids are on wheelchairs, have braces and canes and walkers and crutches, to today where kids are able to zip line, play tag, and enjoy activities that healthy kids have. Of course, it's not perfect. Not all of your kids are perfectly healthy, and they have flares and ups and downs, but we surely have made incredible progress. And in a moment, Kristen Mueller will be up here to talk about our research portfolio and what we're doing in the JA space. But I wanted to hit some highlights in regards to things you may or may not know, and I'm not going to read all of these, but 50,000 kids have gone to our JA camps since we started JA camps. Over 3,000 JA days have been held locally. JA days are one-day activities that happen in markets, either going to a pumpkin patch, going to a firehouse, doing a picnic, getting together in a boardroom, whatever they take fold in their local markets, but we've had over 3,000 local JA days held. 40,000 participants have taken part in this conference since 38 years ago when the JA conference, which is now JA Family Summit, was founded. Over 40,000 participants have taken part in this program. And over 12,000 Power Packs since 2015 have been sent to families. And our Power Packs are next in 2 slides, our Power Packs are our introduction packs that are sent to newly diagnosed patients and their families, and many of you, probably all of you, received one when you were diagnosed, but these are free of charge. We send them out. Pediatric rheumatologists refer families to us, and we mail them out, or families can request them themselves, and we mail them out, and this year's Power Pack has been introduced with some new products in there, including some new brochures, and of course, our new warm-up blanket that you can put in the microwave, and teddy bear as well. And these just help welcome the family to the Arthritis Foundation, but also help them with some tools and tips to how to navigate this new journey that you're all on, and also some materials written for age appropriate for your kids as well. So really a great resource, and a number have, as I mentioned, have been sent out, and we really we want to make sure that families know that we're a resource and we're here for them. But our commitment to JA families, as I said last night, will be a cornerstone of this organization for as long as I'm CEO, and has been by the previous CEOs that have been here before me. Both Ann Palmer, the previous CEO, and myself believe in the JA community and believe in making sure that we expand and continue our programming. And so you're going to see things happening over the coming years that will expand upon our presence for the JA families. And I'll talk about some of these, but some of our guest speakers will also talk about them in a minute. But I do want to talk a little bit about our pathway to improved quality of life, which is one of our main focuses in our patient education side of the house. And I just wanted to hit on a few things. So we believe there's a journey when you're diagnosed. And now the JA families and the JA kids are a little unique because they typically do come to us when they're first diagnosed. Adult population, when you're diagnosed with gout or ankylosing spondylitis, sometimes don't show up right away. They show up years later. They call us because they need more information. But typically a lot of JA kids and families show up when they're first diagnosed. And so the first step in this journey, including for adults, is newly diagnosed. And our belief in newly diagnosed patients is to help them, educate them on the general disease, help connect them to other areas in the organization, and connect to other families. And so a number of things, as you all know, do this. We have our Connect groups that are out there that are for JA families, which are support groups that most of them are virtual, but we do have some face-to-face ones again now that COVID has loosened up a little bit. And then, of course, our Power Packs help, as I mentioned, introduce and connect families to the organization. Once you're through that newly diagnosed stage, you typically move on to a stage called focused programming or wanting to know more. you kind of realize that you're a JA family, you have a 2-year-old, or you're a JA family with a 13-year-old, and you want some new focus program that helps you where you are in that journey. And so we have a number of things happening in this area. We have focus groups, connect groups that focus on different school-aged kids. We also have quarterly meetings for parents of high schoolers. We also have meetings for elementary parents and middle school parents. So a lot of focus programming to help you where you are in your journey. So not only can you learn where you are in your journey, but also connect with others that are experiencing the similar situation as you. From there, once you're usually through focus programming and wanting to know more, you then want to know solutions. How am I going to help my kid have a life like another kid? Or how are they going to be able to get through high school? How are they going to get to college? How are they going to transition from pediatric to adult rheumatology? And so our empowerment and solution-driven programming, including a number of things. We have programs on how to figure out the IEP process or school processes that are in place to help get your kids extra help. Emotional health, we've focused on this in the past year now on mental health and emotional health, helping you navigate that with your child as well. And just making sure that we have other resources available like travel tips for you and for your kids. Arthritis hacks, how to kind of make things work for your kids that don't necessarily work for you now, but how do you make things work for you, either products or other hacks. So many resources on our website that are really about finding solutions and empowering you all and your kids to live the best life that they want to live. And I always say this, and I know Natalie's in the room, but Natalie just shows the kids how you can still follow your dreams and still be what you want to be no matter if you're diagnosed with JA. You might have to find ways around it. You might have to navigate in a different way, but you don't have to give up on your dreams. And that's what empowerment and solution-driven is all about, is making sure that JA kids know that they can have life just like everybody else, though they might have a unique story, which makes them unique, but they can still follow all their dreams that they want to be. So that's wanting solutions. The final step in a journey is typically kind of the paying it forward. And many of you have done this by volunteering and being involved with us, fundraising for us, being on advocacy panels, being involved in patient engagement and research, which you'll hear about in a moment. And also, in this bucket is sometimes you get to the space that you want to know about the science, you want to know about the advocacy efforts. It may not affect you personally, but you want to get involved or learn more deeper information than you might in the first 3 steps along the journey. Some people never get to this bucket, and that's great. We're here really to be a resource and help improve that quality of life for your kids. And it's fine if you're never in this bucket of wanting to know more deep science information or wanting to get involved in advocacy. That's okay, but some of you will want to be involved, and we're here for that as well. So this is kind of the journey that we believe happens along a diagnosis and living with a disease. And so I wanted to focus in on the JA program that's happening in this area. And then finally, I want to end by thanking AOPI. You'll hear from Mary Ellen from AOPI later during the lunch program. But AOPI just committed to $1 million commitment to the organization. AOPI is a women's fraternity. Thank you to AOPI. AOPI has over 130 collegiate chapters on college campuses, as well as over 150 alumni chapters around the country, helping to raise money and raise awareness. They've been involved with us for over 55 years. It is the longest commitment I know in probably the nonprofit sector of a partner that's worked with a nonprofit, and surely our longest partner here at the Arthritis Foundation. And you'll see pictures here of AOPI back in the 1970s, helping increase awareness on their campuses. And then you'll also see today they are still raising awareness, either on college campuses like Elon University on the one side doing a health fair just in the middle of their campus, or AOPI joining in walks with us around the country, or Jingle Bell Runs. This is DePaul University participating in the Chicago Walk. And so being involved and helping people know that kids get arthritis too. That is their big mantra and their focus, although they also support some of our research initiatives in osteoarthritis and in rheumatology fellowships. But they're very, very committed to us, and we truly appreciate it because we wouldn't be able to do what we do in the JA space without this commitment from AOPI. So with that, I want to bring up some guest speakers that are first going to join us. I'm going to introduce Michael Privet, who's our Senior VP of Field Management and Development, Andrea Ring, Senior Director of not Marketing and Communications, of Juvenile Arthritis Programming, and Sabrina Sexton, who's Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications. So please welcome Michael, Sabrina, and Andrea. So we thought this morning we'd have a fireside chat with 5 of our leaders. I brought 3 up first, then we're going to have 2 others come up, and then they're going to join. All 5 will come back up at the end and take questions from all of you, like on those white index cards, so continue to raise your hand if you have one. But I wanted you all to hear the commitment from the senior leaders of this organization around our commitment to the JA population, how important it is to us at the organization. So I'm going to jump in first and talk with Andrea. Andrea's been here a number of years, many years with us, over 20 years at the organization, committed to the arthritis population, now oversees all of our JA programming. But do you want to share a little bit about our commitment to JA programming, what's happening, what's in the plans, and what we normally do?
Sure, absolutely. So some of our programs and resources that we provide for children with arthritis and their families, an example is the Family Summit, as we have here today. This is a program we've been doing, as Steve mentioned, for almost 40 years. And we have it in a different location each year, and it's great to see since COVID, we're building back up. We were a much larger program a couple of years ago, but it's nice to see that we even have 100 more people here this year than we did last year. So hope that we can continue to grow into next year as well. We also have camps across the country. We actually have a camp that's happening this week in Pennsylvania. So we have camps going from the beginning of June through the middle of August, from Seattle, California, all the way over to Georgia and Pennsylvania. We have the Power Pack program that Steve mentioned. And this is where we really want to bring families into our fold. How do people know? I often hear from parents, I didn't know you even existed. I didn't know there was this great resource. So getting that Power Pack into the hands of families and being able to get them connected, invite them to meetings like this, invite them to educational webinars, et cetera. Something else I'm really proud that we're able to do is provide college scholarships. We can provide 20 college scholarships annually to college students. So we're not just doing those programs for younger kids, but how can we support those kids that are going into college and expanding their careers as well. And then we have webinars and podcasts. So we're continually trying to improve, trying to grow those connect groups that Steve mentioned, where we're looking at, parents of high schoolers, having them meet and connect and talk about different things and be able to share their experiences as well.
So, so many amazing things in the JA community, $100,000 in college scholarships, et cetera. Andrew, where's next year's Family Summit? I'm just joking.
Surprise.
I know.
You will find out. Come back Saturday night.
I thought I'd trick her into telling us. I tried, everybody. I thought maybe she'd fall for it. It'll be Saturday night. The announcement will happen where we're going next year, exactly. But I thought maybe I'd get you, but I didn't, of course. Thank you, Andrew, very much. Let's go on to Sabrina. Sabrina is our Senior VP of Marketing and Communications, and we've started not only our 75th anniversary campaign this year, but also a campaign called We Journey Together. I know you have a video to show and some other information, but do you want to share a little bit about that, Sabrina?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say you all understood the assignment with this Arthritis Foundation green today. You all look amazing.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to be able to talk about our awareness campaign, especially here at the JA Family Summit in July, which is JA Awareness Month, because this event, I feel, is really such a great example of what the heart of our campaign concept, We Journey Together, is all about. I'm going to back up just a little bit, though, and tell you, the intention of the awareness campaign is really to serve, to borrow some words from one of our staff members, serve as a business card, right? We want to reach out to people who may not have ever heard of the Arthritis Foundation and say, we're here, and here's a little bit about us, right? And you heard Matt Mooney last night, our national board chair at the opening dinner and a JA dad, talk about how important it is to continue to spread awareness, to raise awareness of the fact that, hey, kids get arthritis too. And with We Journey Together, we really want to make sure that even though we know everyone's journey with arthritis is different, that no one has to make that journey alone. So we are running advertising in markets all across the country, online, offline, Facebook, Google. In fact, we've got a short video to share an example of that.
Juvenile arthritis affects hundreds of thousands of children and their families in the U.S. We are there for each of them. We grow together. We dream together. We vibe together. We journey together.
And this is an example in the Atlanta airport. I'm curious if any of you got to see this on your way in. Yes, awesome, I love that. Great, so this is an example of the really JA-themed and focused advertising that we're running this month. And in addition to that, we've got people doing outreach to news outlets, online outlets, media outlets, print outlets, really with the intention of helping to share stories of families just like you. So we're just so excited to be able to do this work to raise awareness, and we really appreciate your participation and support in that.
Thanks, Sabrina. And real quick, I did want to mention, even during Andrea's talk, is you can always find all of our resources for JA families on our website, arthritis.org. Just go to the search bar and put juvenile arthritis, and you'll get us to your page that has all the resources, information of the webinars, the resource sheets, the connect groups, etc. So, Sabrina, before I go off your topic, do you want to talk a little bit about the rebranding of the JA Family Summit and kind of the whole JA brand as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we are so excited about the work that we were able to complete over the past year in partnership with our JA team and volunteers to really create a new look and feel for JA programming. So you've seen it come to life in all of the materials around the Family Summit this year. And what I especially love about it is that it really was designed to convey this sense of hope and potential and really this bright spirit. And because it's really based in illustrations, it gives us tremendous flexibility to be able to show all kinds of people and kids, right, of different races, genders, body types, and it just gives us such great flexibility to bring in elements like hearts and emojis and campfires, depending on what kind of program it is. So we're really, really proud of the work and hope that you all agree it looks great.
Thanks, Sabrina. So Michael is our Senior VP of Field Management and Development, and I thought Michael could share a little bit. I mean, I just shared obviously our commitment from AOPI, but also kind of where we fundraise, how important fundraising is to the organization, and I'll let Michael kind of do an overview of that as well.
Yeah, I'd love to. So if we're successful this year, we'll raise almost $60 million in support of the juvenile arthritis and the larger arthritis community, an incredible number. As proud of that number as I am, it's not enough. And we do this in a lot of ways. So we're a national organization, but we're made up of local communities. In fact, we're broken up into 4 regions that represent about 60 communities. And across those 60 communities are nearly 200 local events like Walks to Cure Arthritis, Jingle Bell Runs, Bone Bashes. And in fact, I suspect many in this room have made a big impact on that. At most of those events, we tell stories like your families. We invite a JA family to serve as an honoree to better acquaint our entire arthritis community and other allies with the journey that you're on. And so I'm curious, if you or your family have been an honoree at one of our events, would you raise your hand? Wow, that's impressive. Thank you. Thank you. A remarkable difference in what you inspire our communities to do and to give. And so together we'll raise almost $15 million at those local events. And so I can't overstate what a difference that makes. Those events really serve as an on-ramp. For many, the Family Summit won't be the first place they get to meet the Arthritis Foundation. It'll be at a Jingle Bell Run. And they may be running beside you, and you'll get the chance to let them know they're not alone. And so that's an incredible piece of what we do. Each year, we raise almost $10 million from corporate partners like Novartis, who is sponsoring this event today. That community understands advancing science and policy makes a difference for families like yours. And so each year, we go out and tell them the ways they can make a difference and how they can continue to invest in our work. There's one program I would tell you about that may not be quite as visible, but I want you to start looking for it. It's called Ease of Use. This program turns 25 years old this year and represents almost $100 million in sales each year, but it's around products that are a little easier to use if you're living with the pain of arthritis or a mobility limitation. And that program generates over $1 million in companies that certify their products to make sure that they're easier to use. And that makes it easier for all of us, but especially those living with the pain of arthritis. And lastly, I'd be remiss not to mention that each year, almost a third of our entire annual budget comes from those who choose to make our legacy their legacy through bequest. And what's interesting about Bequest, last year it raised over $20 million that people left to the foundation. What's powerful about that is that many of them never connected with us before we found out that they were making that gift, before they decided to make our legacy their legacy. And so telling your story, so often folks are going silently in pain, and I think nothing is more important in our fundraising than giving voice to our community. And so when we do that, I'm confident we're going to raise $60 million, and we're going to keep growing this organization and putting that to work for families like yours.
Absolutely, Michael. And we're going to talk a little bit more when we have the whole panelists up here around how you can get involved and share your story either through advocacy, marketing, fundraising, et cetera. So if we can thank Andrea, Sabrina, and Michael for joining us. They'll be back up in a few minutes for questions. And while they're exiting, I'll remind you to write questions on the white card and just raise your hand with that white card, and we have runners that will run around and get them from you. And while we're doing that, we're going to introduce our next speakers, who will be Anna Hyde and Kristen Mueller. Anna is our Vice President of Advocacy and Access, and Kristen Mueller is our Vice President of Autoimmune Arthritis Research. So welcome, Anna and Kristen. So as you all know, research is a cornerstone of an organization as well. We're very committed. We invest more money in research than almost anything else in our program at the organization. And Kristen specifically works on a number of initiatives, rheumatoid arthritis, gout, ankylosing spondylitis, but also focuses her role on juvenile arthritis research. So do you want to share a little bit about our commitment to research, what we're doing, and kind of what we've done over the past few years, Kristen?
Yes, I would. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first JA Family Summit, and it's just so amazing to see all of your excitement. So the way that we support research is really through our partnership with CARA. And so CARA is an organization made up largely of pediatric rheumatologists and also really engaged patients and families. And so we've been partnering with CARA since their inception, which is more than 20 years ago. And since 2015 alone, we've invested more than $36 million in research, which is really impressive. I also wanted to just point out that there's a couple representatives from CARA here today. Their new CEO, Matthew Nielsen, is here, as well as Vincent Delgaizo, who I think a lot of you probably have interacted with before, but he handles patients' engagement there. So part of this investment has included supporting, for instance, studies that have led to new medications, which I'm sure some of your children are on, and also supporting their registry, which is a really important place where they collect data. Over 13,000 patients have enrolled in that registry so that scientists and physicians can use those data to make important new discoveries that can help your kids. So that's just looking back. Looking forward, we're making a lot of really important investments as well. So one of the new initiatives that we're beginning to support this year is into something called consensus treatment plans. And so consensus treatment plans are really important because they help standardize the care that your kids receive, and also they can be used then to carry out what's called comparative effectiveness research. And so that's important research because it's really allowing us to understand which treatment regimens are best for which kids. And so we're making that investment. The CTPs, as they're called, have been designed, but they're not really well implemented throughout the physician community. So we're making that investment now. Another program that we've been investing in since 2016 and continue in the future is their individual investigator grants program. So we've invested over $6 million there. And we actually this week just announced our new cohort of awardees. So we made 10 new grants this year to some exciting research focused on trying to understand when kids can come off their medication, how to support kids in school, and really to support early career physician scientists who are at a critical point in their journey to be able to start their labs and continue the important research that's needed for this community.
Great, thanks, Kristen. I just want to make sure that number sinks in with you too, that we've invested $36 million just in juvenile arthritis research since 2015. JA has been a very big commitment to us in the research portfolio, not to mention on the programmatic portfolio as well. And of course, we invest millions and millions of dollars in RA and other research and other diseases as well. But CARA and our partnership with CARA and our commitment to JA research will continue as well. So thank you, Kristen, very much. Anna, so Anna's been with us a number of years and oversees all of our advocacy work around the country, both on Capitol Hill and in state legislatures. I thought Anna could share some of the incredible milestones we've reached over the years, but also share a little bit about the future and what we're looking at specifically around the JA population, although some of our work might look like it appears to focus in on the adult population, but really does trickle down and help your kids and your families as well. So, Anna, do you want to give an overview of our advocacy focus on breaking down those barriers to access to care?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, my job is to make sure that people have access to those consensus treatment plans and the best standard of care, really focusing on the best quality of care possible. One might even call it an ideal model of care.
Oh, wow, yes. Ideal model of care, that's our term that we've coined last year, Anna and team did, so ideal model of care.
Steve gets the credit for the name, though.
Well, okay, well.
But, of course, we hear over and over from you all that before you get, who cares about access to treatment if I can't even access a healthcare provider? Pediatric rheumatology is in shortage, as many of you know all too well, and we have worked for many years to try to shore up that shortage. It's going to be an ongoing effort, but one of our, I think, crowning successes of the last couple of years is we had worked really hard to get the pediatric loan repayment program. That's a mouthful, but it's a program, you know, we were able to kind of get it sort of propped up. It's really getting pediatric rheumatologists, trying to get that pipeline filled and in underserved areas. If you haven't been over to our advocacy booth yet, we have a map up there that shows, you can really see the shortage really across the country. And even states that don't have a shortage are still overwhelmed because those pediatric rheumatologists are trying to treat patients from surrounding states that may not have access. So last year, we got it funded for the very first time, which is amazing. It was a 10-year-long effort. I like to point that out because sometimes if you advocate with us, it can be frustrating going back to the Hill every single year talking about the same bill. Haven't we already done this? Haven't we already done this? But sometimes it can take a long time. So 10 years, I'm going to just keep that in mind for the future. So as you're getting frustrated working on other issues with us, it can happen. Persistence pays off. Anyway, so that's really exciting. And right now, the first round of applications for those that loan repayment is open. It's open right now. So hopefully we'll start to see people getting into the field and start to get into those underserved areas. So that's a big
and it does look like they're going to double that budget for this year over last year's number,
Indeed,
correct?
yes. So we're starting to kind of grow it, but it takes time to get things off the ground. So we're really excited to be able to work on the implementation of that. And then on the access side.
And can I just jump in there? Just because I want to give Anna credit for this. So it is a pediatric loan repayment program for not just pediatric rheumatologists. However, Anna was the voice and the face of this fight for the last 8 years since she's joined here to make sure it got across the finish line using other organizations with us that also have pediatric specialties like endocrinologists and oncologists, et cetera. But the Arthritis Foundation, thanks to Anna's leadership, I knew Anna before I joined here, really got that finally across the finish line. It takes a while to convince funding to come to that, but it was in the Affordable Care Act, and it just never was funded, although it was put in there. And then getting funding is a whole other story, but Anna knew once we got funding, it would probably get renewed. It was just getting that funding, and so she kept that fight and brought together coalitions of other organizations to make sure that happened. So it'll trickle down to pediatric rheumatology as well. So I just want to make sure you understood that, but thank you, Anna.
But really, the difference maker is your stories.
That's right.
You know, we've brought patients to the Hill, both virtually and in person, and it's the stories that really make the difference. And so how can you get involved? If you are a kid with arthritis, if you're age 13 to 17, you can join our Junior Ambassador Program. And our grassroots manager, Aisha Ahmed, is here with us. And we have sign-ups, we have QR codes, we're very fancy now, at our booth. And we've really revived that program under her leadership. And there are now monthly assignments and mental health tips, which I personally have found very valuable, and other ways to get those teens connected. I think it really looks great on a college scholarship too, or college application, right? To say that you volunteered with the Arthritis Foundation. Kids younger than that, there's ways as well through story banking, sharing their story. Those messages really resonate because a lot of legislators don't know that kids get arthritis. And I can see those just light bulb moments happen when I've been lucky enough to join some of those Hill meetings. And then for parents, of course, we have our ambassador program and our advocate program that you can get involved too. So it's access to providers, it's access to treatment, it's better diagnostics, all sorts of things. We really try to run the gamut and then making sure once you find the right treatment that works for you that you can maintain access to it. That's a big cornerstone of our program. Just very quickly coming up, we are strengthening really growing the Junior Ambassador Program, but then once you are not a kid anymore, once you turn 18, what happens to you? We know that transition can be really tough, trying to navigate healthcare on your own, and so we are starting to really kind of pay attention to that transition. So when you age out of the Junior Ambassador Program and become an ambassador on your 18th birthday, you will get an email that says, welcome to the Ambassador Program, please sign up and also register to vote because you're 18 now and you can do that. And what I'm really excited to roll out later this year is kind of a mentorship program so that when you get that email, it'll ask you, do you want to be paired with a veteran ambassador who can really help you kind of navigate best practices and tips for this kind of scary world of health coverage and trying to figure out adult, healthcare. So we're really excited about that and hope to continue to grow and strengthen all of our programming. So.
Do you want to talk a little bit about access and the ideal model of care program? Because I kind of took us off track with interrupting on the pediatric loan subspecialty loan repayment program. But do you want to talk a little bit about some of the access points that we're looking at as well to help kids, families, and adults with arthritis?
Absolutely. So to us, ideal model of care means that you have access to all of the healthcare needs, providers, whether it's mental health, physical therapy, whatever it is, and the treatments that go along with that. And you don't have to run through a million hoops of having to fail on one medication before you can get the one that your doctor prescribed or constant prior authorizations. We had a panel not long ago where a patient said, prior authorization is my hurricane. And that has stuck with me all this time. It's my hurricane. I try to stockpile because I know that when I have to go through prior auth, I'm going to have this disruption in my care. We're trying to avoid that. That's what ideal model of care seeks to do. So that fail first, I mentioned, is step therapy. And then making sure you can afford your care. So making sure out-of-pocket costs, count towards all of your cost sharing, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that. We've had a lot of success at the state level. Now 37 states have step therapy protections and some out-of-pocket protections, 19 states, making sure that all of the cost-sharing assistance that you may get counts towards your out-of-pocket. At the federal level, we have legislation as well. If you join our advocate program, you'll get access to all of that. We're making more movement on those issues than we ever have before, so we're really hopeful that we can get some of that over the finish line this Congress, and we're going to officially roll out the ideal model of care. We have a landing page on our website that's going to go live next month, and there will be a lot of resources there for how you can sort of get engaged and really plug in your story so that we can then go back and use that on the Hill.
And we're back live, knocking on Capitol Hill doors. I mean, we've been live in small groups, but with our Advocacy Summit this September, a small group, about 100 plus, will be there, but we've kept it smaller because post-COVID, there's more challenges with appointments and getting into congressmen and senators and congresswomen's offices. But we'll be growing that again back to where we were before to make sure we make a big splash on Capitol Hill. But there's work being done locally, statewide as well, and surely in our question and answer period, we might have time for Anna to take some more questions on that as well. So with that, I'm going to thank you, Anna and Kristen. Let's give them a round of applause. And now with that, I'm going to bring back up Michael, Sabrina, and Andrea and answer your questions. So hopefully you've handed some in. You can continue to raise your hand with questions, and we'll try to get through as many as we can in the time left. And I'm sure I see my handy-dandy helper bringing me my questions. Perfect. So let's jump in first. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about volunteer power, just because, we are a volunteer-powered organization. We're powered by our volunteers nationwide. We couldn't do what we do without it. Especially in the JA community, volunteers are critical to our what we do. And so, Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about volunteer-powered and how it impacts the JA community and what we do in the JA programming space?
Sure, absolutely. I often tell people, like this meeting, for example, is for parents by parents, and just the leads, we had, I think, 30 volunteers that we worked with throughout this year to be able to do this program. I could not have done this program without them. They are the heart and soul of this program. what sessions you have, the activities last night, everything, every part of this meeting, and I get goosebumps talking about it, is by the parents and patients and young adults. We even have our teen program. The teens are the leads in that. And so it's really important to continue to have volunteers step up and be a part of this meeting, because it wouldn't be the way it is without the awesome volunteers that we have. And then even our camps, for example, we couldn't do our camps without the volunteers, the medical volunteers, the mental health volunteers, our counselors who are often kiddos. You know, they grew up going to camp, and now they're counselors and volunteers and program leaders. And so, and even our college scholarship, those applications are not reviewed by me. They're reviewed by past recipients, pediatric rheumatologists, other volunteers. So my job, I know I wouldn't be able to do without all the volunteer support that I have.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mentioned last night, but we have a number of JA parents that have also served on our national board of directors, get involved in national committees outside the JA community. And currently we have 2 parents on our national board that are JA parents. We've also had past board chair Mike Ortman, who's been very involved in the conference as a national board chair. A number of JA families always in the room, no matter what we're deciding, besides just the JA spots, but also making sure JA voices are heard in all of our decisions in advocacy, science, as well as at the national board level. So thanks, Andrew. Michael, I want to throw it to you on the same kind of question. How important are the volunteers in our communities in fundraising?
You know, I talked about the 60 communities across the country where we're on the ground, but what I didn't tell you is that behind those 60 communities are local leadership boards made up of volunteers who are organizing and mobilizing in their community. They're often also serving on those special event committees that then bring to life all of those events we've been talking about. You know, for example, we're here in Atlanta. That's home to the Crystal Ball, which raises almost $450,000 for the arthritis community. Anybody from Texas? Texas is home. Dr. Tom Rennie is a pretty incredible volunteer, and he went off path and did it, we call it DIY fundraising, do it your way fundraising. Dr. Rennie organized a pickleball tournament in San Antonio, Texas that raised $50,000. Volunteer powered comes to life in a lot of ways when it comes to our fundraising efforts. Sometimes it's going to be joining a lot of folks at a big Jingle Bell run like the one we do in Orange County for anybody from California. That'll raise almost $500,000 this December, we expect. But sometimes it happens in a community where there is no local leadership board. There's no walk or Jingle Bell run, and you organize it yourself and bring it to life. I'd invite you to stop by the table outside. You'll notice some balloons. A member of our team, Aaron Stark, will be there. So if you don't have an event in your community that you can plug into, you could plan your own fundraising activity like a JA dance party, which you might have seen happening yesterday. So volunteers are the lifeblood of our fundraising campaign, not only when you step up as an honoree to tell your story, when you go online and share on social media, invite people to give, to join your teams. We just couldn't do it without you.
Thanks, Michael. And then, Ann, I know you talked a little bit, obviously, about getting volunteers, telling their story, et cetera. Do you just want to share how people actually sign up to be an advocate? It was a question. I just want to make sure, in case people didn't know that, you could share how they actually sign up.
Sure. Well, we have QR codes for all of those programs out in our booth out there, so that might be the best way to just scan that. But on our website, you could just plug in just Arthritis Foundation Advocate, and it'll take you to our sign up. You plug in your information, it'll put you in the system. You'll get our newsletters every month and so forth. And then it also has a lot of resources that we're also revamping, so that'll roll out to you a new grassroots toolkit about, you only have 5 minutes to get involved. Here, you can do this. If you want to get involved in a higher level, there are ways to do that too, and everything in between. So it doesn't have to be scary, because I know that it can feel intimidating to people, but it doesn't have to be.
That's great. Thanks, Dan. And then over to Sabrina. Do you want to share, someone talked about how do they share their story? How do they connect with us to be able to share their child's story and be able to be involved in some of our media and marketing opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is so critical in so many ways. You've heard about how important sharing your story is. When we go to the news, they often, don't really want to talk to us unless they can talk to a patient or a family who's affected by arthritis. So we actually, I think, have added into the conference app a link or a QR code that will take you right to a platform that we use where it gives you an opportunity with some prompts to just record a short video to tell us a little bit about your story, and then someone from our team will reach out But we really, really depend on that. We share those stories not only with the media, but also on our website, on arthritis.org, and social media, on YouTube. So it's just such a critical way to connect people and to help people understand that there are people just like them who are going through a similar journey.
Absolutely, and we definitely encourage you to share your story because, as Anna said and Sabrina said, it's so important for you to get involved and be able to share your child's story with us and your family's story. Going to Kristen, question around how you get involved in research and how what would you suggest some first steps to maybe volunteering in the research space would be?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's so important to have you all involved in research. And so there's a number of different opportunities. One of the things we always need is our grant reviewers. We fund a lot of research. We need your help choosing it. The lived experience is just as important as the scientific expertise in judging these grants. We need actually you all to be part of scientific research teams, and I know that can sound intimidating, but it's possible, and getting involved with us and getting involved with CARA can help you find a path there. The other major way to get involved is to participate in clinical research, in clinical studies, in clinical trials, and there's actually a session this afternoon about that, and so you can learn more because that's the way that we learn more information, and medications move through the process and get approved. And finally, I just wanted to point out that with CARA, we've been developing a new inflammatory arthritis research agenda, and so that was informed, of course, by scientists and physicians, but then once they had their ideas, we put them out in a survey to all of you to help us decide where we are going to focus. And so we are always looking for your input into the research, into the science.
Thanks. So we have a question regarding the methotrexate shortage, and so I don't know if anyone has some, you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing to address that or assist with that. Do you want to take it, Anna, first, I guess? Anna and I are well familiar with shortages after living the Plaquenil shortage back in 2020, which was horrendous for the autoimmune disease population. So the methotrexate is not as serious or as widespread as that, but definitely there's some challenges. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've seen some ups and downs with methotrexate shortages over the past couple of years, and certainly most recently, one resource is our helpline, where we always encourage, if you're experiencing something or have a question, call our helpline, and then they can connect you up with some resources. We do have a statement on our website that sort of talks about different things you can do, whether it is getting in touch with your healthcare provider to see if there's another option, or searching around other pharmacies in your area, which has certainly helped some people. Unfortunately, when shortages happen, there's only so much you can do, because oftentimes it could be facility issues. In this last case, that was a big part of it. Supply chain issues, those kinds of things, which have really increased in the past couple of years. Something we monitor very closely. We work very closely with the American College of Rheumatology on those sorts of things. We have a whole network of pharmacy groups and others so that we can really kind of triage when we need to, just getting a feedback loop going. And then, of course, working with the Food and Drug Administration that tracks those shortages. But I think there is definitely a bigger component legislatively, potentially, to try to prevent those shortages from happening in the future.
And following up on that, have we seen an increase, Kristen, Andrea, or Anna, in JA diagnosis since COVID, or lower diagnosis? I have an answer, but I don't know if any of you want to throw anything into that or not. Go ahead. Do you want me to take it?
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I don't think we've seen a diagnosis increase or a decrease, except, and it's kind of a two-edged sword. Some access increased during COVID because of telemedicine, and so people had some more access to pediatric rheumatology. Of course, things have changed, and some of that's not able to happen across state lines now because some of the bills have expired of doctors being able to go across state lines via telemedicine for reimbursement. So access kind of waxed and waned, some better, some worse during COVID, but diagnosis still basically stayed the same from all the numbers that we know. So we do know, and I saw this question, and Sabrina and I surely can answer this, there will be some new released numbers from the CDC that might change some of the numbers of diagnosis in juvenile arthritis. And so I don't know if, Sabrina, you want to share anything on that a little bit, but or I can take it as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that there are a number of different studies that look into the number of people who have juvenile arthritis and arthritis, and they're all estimates, right? So different studies produce different estimates. So sometimes when the numbers change, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit. The fact remains that there are hundreds of thousands of kids living with juvenile arthritis, and we are doing everything we can to help support those kids and their families.
Yeah, and specifically with CDC numbers, just so you know, they changed their survey. I mean, literally changed to a different survey to use. So we look at the benchmarking over a number of years rather than one static survey. So we're looking more at dynamic numbers over time. And as Sabrina says, hundreds of thousands. The follow-up question on that was, will it change our commitment to juvenile arthritis? And as long as I'm here, it will not change the commitment to juvenile arthritis. No matter what the number is, it's still, we have hundreds of thousands of kids, even if it waxes and wanes by 75, 50,000, whatever it is, it still doesn't change our commitment. We don't do it based on numbers of diagnosis. It's based on what is needed in the market, what's needed for all of you, what's needed from our population, and the JA kids and you as families deserve and need that help as well. So it wouldn't change our commitment by any means. So I just want to make sure I follow up on that. Andrea, to you, a question is, can you make a commitment, and I can surely add to this, but the JA Summit will be continuing in the future, and so first go with that question.
Yes, absolutely. We are actually looking at sites for 2025 as we speak. So we've got our site. We'll make that announcement on Saturday night, and then we're looking for 2025 locations.
So yeah, so obviously our commitment is through 2025. The follow-up question to that is, where is next year's summit?
Everybody?
Yes, no.
Saturday night, you will find out.
It was on a card. I swear I did not make that up. The first time it was my making that up. This time someone turned it in as a question. So, but our commitment to the JA Family Summit is not changing. We surely didn't do a whole new name and rebranding to then not have it next year, the year after, the year after. So no discussion has ever taken place that this would not continue into the future, just so you know. So, so that will continue. Okay, I know there's a number of things happening in awareness area, and I want Sabrina to talk a little bit, because someone asked about podcasts and other things. Do you want to share a little bit about our podcasts and what's out there in the JA space?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an arthritis custom podcast that we produce called the Live Yes with Arthritis podcast. You can find it on your favorite podcast app. Recently, we actually had Liz and Steve Smith as guests on that podcast who did a wonderful job talking about their experience.
Dang.
So thank you so much for joining the podcast. And I also want to share that just this week, we actually released the first 3 episodes of a 6-part limited run podcast series called JA Talks. And it's by JA patients for JA patients. In fact, a volunteer, a woman named Kate Wingate, reached out to the foundation over a year ago with this idea, and we collaborated with her to produce this 6-part podcast. She is one of the hosts, along with 2 members of her staff who are also JA patients. So I encourage you to check that out. You can find it at arthritis.org/JA Talks.
Great, thanks, Sabrina. And I know during lunch, we also have guest speakers from another podcast that they've started, their JA kids that grew into young adults. They'll be sharing their journey, but also how they started a podcast as well to help other kids. And they partner with us regularly, and we're thrilled to have them as a partner as well. So thank you, Sabrina. But definitely go to our website and you can find all that information for the podcast to be able to follow along. And I do want to thank Liz and Steve Smith. Despite the host of that, they did a great job. I was the host of the podcast. They did well, even despite of me. So thank you for joining that podcast. Kristen, do you want to talk a little bit about how do you know if the child eligible to participate in research, and then how would a parent know how to be involved in bigger discussions on patient engagement, et cetera?
Yeah, so, the eligibility criteria is something that can be really tough for clinical studies and clinical trials. And so it really depends on the study. And so it's something that you really want to have a conversation with your doctor about to understand if your child would be eligible. And remind me the second half of that question.
Just patient engagement, how parents can be involved in regards to, is there age requirements, experience, long-term diagnosis? Do you have to have a kid that had JA for 10 years, or how do we involve people?
Yeah, so I think, just getting involved in clinical studies, one of the main ways is to enroll in the care registry. That's hugely helpful, and you can do that when your kid is really at any age, and then you'll be providing some feedback. The child will be providing feedback in partnership with the physician, and it's really your doctor that's going to be critical for helping you find out more information. And then, of course, CARA is a great resource to find out about clinical studies, as are we. We can help direct you to different trials that might be open.
Great.
Can I put a plug
Yeah,
in?
please.
So I believe it's tomorrow, maybe morning, maybe afternoon, that in the JA Cafe, we will have tables about the CARA registry, we'll have tables about patient engagement as well, and we'll have a table about advocacy. So if you have some more specific questions and you want to talk to our Director of Patient Engagement, she will be here at that table, and then Vince Delgazzo from CARA will be at the CARA registry table.
Great, thank you. So since you're on the mic, Andrea,
Yeah.
someone asked, how can they suggest topics for future family summits?
Sure, absolutely. Through the app. So each session, we will have evaluations in the app, and then you will get an email next week, and we're going to have a post-event survey, and would love to get recommendations through there. I believe we do have a question that asks if you'd like to volunteer and get more involved, or if there's certain topics that you'd like to see, please put it in that post-survey. We read those. When we start to plan for next year, we even take all of that out, and the committee reviews it, and we take a look at it. So please share what you liked about the summit, what topics you liked, what you'd like to see more of, and we will try to integrate that and work that in as best as we can.
Great, thank you. So to make sure how important surveys and focus groups are to us, JA uses parents regularly to have input, but your survey results and what you write in those surveys are seriously looked at by every committee. I've been on a number of event committees in my career, and sometimes, surveys are done and no one looks at it for the next year. I will tell you, in the JA space, we look at those surveys, read every line, every idea, every topic, trying to innovate ourselves, but also meet the needs of those that are going to be attending. So, and the chairs each year are so committed to that as well, because we definitely want to make sure we're meeting the needs of the families, for sure. Michael, do you want to talk a little bit? Someone wrote a question around this. I'll kind of reword it, but some families are extremely committed to our fundraising in JBR, Jingle Bell Runs, or Walk to Cure Arthritis is, but some might not be a fundraising family. Should they still go to the event? Should they still be involved? And what's the expectation of even being at that event?
Yeah, your visibility is central to our ability to fundraise. And so, of course, I hope every one of you will organize a team, invite your friends, family, coworkers to support, to invest in your family, in the research, education, and policy that makes a difference for this community. But regardless, your showing up makes a difference in ways that you may not always see. That there are, of course, hundreds of corporate sponsors all across the country that are investing in our community events, in our programs, in our education events. And you're showing up and being there and bringing friends and family and neighbors to those things help us demonstrate the visibility of our community. And that adds value. They want to know that when they do something good, that people know about it. And so you're turning up, you're bringing people out and organizing is just as important as you're telling your story and fundraising. And so I would really encourage you, look up events in your community. Come often to them. And so if you've got the fortune of being in a community where we've got 2 or 3 events happening, I want you there every chance you can be. And then, as I mentioned, in the instances that you can't be, organize them yourself and bring a community together. That's the seeds of a next big event growing. And so, even if you're not able to give or to fundraise around it, we need you there. It helps us bring more investment into this work.
Yeah, and I also wanted to echo that because, thank you, Michael, well done. It's important that you're there to show support, not just to sponsors, which is very important, but also to the other families, other people with arthritis that show up. Because you can imagine if someone convinces their sister to come and say, arthritis is real, and they go to the event and 40 people are there, they're like, really, how real is arthritis? But if they show up and 100 people are there, it makes it a little more serious for that person that dragged their sister or their brother or their husband or their mother, father, whoever might go with them. And your story might matter to someone, even if you're there and you didn't fundraise. Some other JA family might be there that you'll be able to connect with from your local market. They're looking for connections when you go to events. So you being there is just as important about the fundraising. It's another way to connect with other people that are living in the similar journey that you all are. So definitely participation is equally important to the fundraising. We don't want you to feel it's just about the fundraising. There's connections that happen and education that happens at those events as well. Michael, following up on that, someone wrote another question. If they know someone who owns a company, how can they get involved? So they might not own a company, they might not have the funds to sponsor an event, but say their neighbor owns a company or their uncle owns a company. How would you suggest they get them involved?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could engage them. I'll tell you one that's a really easy sell, and I hope you'll write this one down. It's called Arthritis at Work. It's an entirely free program that we offer to companies of any size. And the intention there is that we help companies create workspaces that are more inclusive for people living with arthritis and mobility limitations. So often companies have thought about lots of ways to make for an inclusive environment, and they've forgotten our community. And we can help them at no cost to unlock a ton of great resources. Webinars and infographics and news articles and podcasts, all tons of great content to help them make their workspaces more inclusive so they benefit from the talent of our community. And so I'd start there. I, of course, would want you to advocate for them to show up and sponsor our community events, to invest in our programs, and it makes a huge difference. A lot of times companies today aren't just sort of going out and blanketing a community with sponsorships and investments everywhere. They're responsive to their customers, they're responsive to their employees, and that's where they give their dollars. And so I think the Arthritis at Work program demonstrates a way for us to show value to them first. And then in return, almost always, they see value in returning an investment back to our organization. So talk to your employer about enrolling in the program. Talk to them about organizing a team to come out to community events. I promise you, they'll see nothing but value and a great experience in being a part of it.
Thanks, Michael. And back to you, Kristen. In regards to, do you want to talk a little bit, there's questions on HCP engagement, and I'll talk a little bit about a couple of these questions that people wrote. But I thought maybe we should just spend time reiterating and maybe talking about our fellowship program and how important filling the pipeline for future rheumatologists and pediatric rheumatologists is. Do you want to talk a little bit about our fellowship program?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is such an important thing because I'm sure, as many of you have experienced, it can be really hard to get appointments with pediatric rheumatologists. They may not be anywhere close to where you live. And so there's just a real pipeline issue that we need more of them. And so the Arthritis Foundation has been investing for many years in fellowship programs. And so each year we give out usually 3 to 4, sometimes 5 fellowships to different institutions across the U.S. to support new slots for pediatric rheumatology fellows. So that means that one more person interested in going into pediatric rheumatology can be trained. And then the other thing we're doing is we're trying to make sure that the workforce of pediatric rheumatologists matches the population in terms of demographics. And so we have some new DEI programs that we're doing that really help support people who are underrepresented in medicine get into pediatric rheumatology and stay there and end up in the workforce treating your kids.
Great. And on that question, there was some discussion around pediatricians, not just pediatric rheumatologists, but also primary care physicians. So we, this year, invested in a full-time position for healthcare provider engagement, so an HCP engagement director that's out there trying to build relationships with various specialties, orthopedic surgeons for the OA side, rheumatologists, pediatric rheumatologists, but also looking at bigger buckets like nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, pediatricians, and primary care physicians. You can imagine with the number of doctors in those bigger buckets, the PCPs or the pediatricians, we're talking hundreds of thousands in that bucket. But there is a concerted effort to look at some of them. We surely haven't looked away from them, because I think the person that wrote this card is so true. Oftentimes pediatricians or primary care physicians miss the diagnosis. They don't misdiagnose. They miss the diagnosis. They don't refer them on fast enough. And so we are working in areas to make sure they understand when they should refer people on. Still work to be done in this area. Surely not going to happen overnight, but wanted to make sure I answered that question as well, because it still is a focus for us. In regards to a few questions as I wrap up, and I'll ask all of you if there's any closing thoughts any of you have in a moment. There's a couple questions. One, since we're running out of time, one is I encourage you all to look on our website at our annual report. There's great information each year that we put out in our annual report reviewing the past year, but unfortunately our annual report is not detailed enough. It would be thousands of pages each year about what we actually delivered. So specifically looking for JA stuff, go to our website and put juvenile arthritis, and that'll take you to all the information and programs and services that we have for JA families. But you want to know more about our annual report and in bigger, broad numbers, as well as how much we raise, how much we spend, that's in our annual report. I encourage you to look in our website, just for annual report, and you'll find our latest. A new one will be coming out soon from last year as well. In addition, I mentioned how important surveys are. Definitely the volunteer voice and the volunteer power is so important for us. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without that as well. I think I hit most of the bullets and got to most of those questions. Let me go back to each of you if you have any closing thoughts. I'll start down with Michael and move my way so Andrew, our JA expert, can end with any closing comments. But Michael, anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, a phrase that I loved is when you're tired of saying something, somebody in the room is hearing it for the first time. And I know that many of you get called on a lot by us. We ask you to advocate, connect us to your doctor, come out to a Jingle Bell Run, donate, be an honoree. We're going to keep calling on you. And I do that, and I ask for your grace and patience in that because there's just not enough people speaking up. And your voice has to be heard. And so I think there's probably no important message than us being confident and persistent, as Anna said, in repeating your story over and over and over and over until it changes. And so that is when we're going to raise the money so that we find the cure and we transform arthritis for the next generation. We're only going to do that until you keep saying it and until you think that you're sick of saying that no one wants to hear my story again. Someone needs to hear it one more time. So that would be my message for you all.
And I'll just echo in regards to emails. So you might get an email today that doesn't pertain to you, but I encourage you to just delete it. No big deal. Just delete it. You never saw it. Doesn't matter. But you might get the same email in a year or 2 years, and it might matter to you then. So you just never know when an email is going to hit when you need it, or a program or a service. But don't feel bad that you have to respond to everything we ask for or be involved in everything, but we want you to know what's happening. So always take emails, letters, campaigns as education about what we're doing, not always a guilt trip to try to get you involved. I just want to make sure I say that because I used to say that in my last organization, and it helps people feel not as obligated or feeling bad, but knowing that it's really take it as an education so you know what's happening out there as well. So thanks, Michael. Sabrina, any closing comments?
Sure. I would just ask that kind of in the same vein of continuing to tell your story, just use our hashtag, right, Stronger Than JA, while you're here at the event, after the event. We're on pretty much every social channel. We just joined Threads, right, so we're on Threads now too. But then in addition to that, when you do hear from those people in your community who raise their hand and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm affected by JA too, or I have arthritis too, how can I get connected? Arthritis.org, as Steve has mentioned a few times, is such a great resource. Arthritis.org/JA is a really easy way to go right to that landing page that will give you all of the information about our JA programs and information. We really appreciate you continuing to help spread the word.
Kristen.
Yeah, so I think I would just say that we really need all of your help to continue our investment in science and research. You've seen the pictures that Steve showed earlier today. We've made a lot of progress in the last 50 years, and that's due to science and research. And it's important to have all of your voices in that. And so please, if you are interested in becoming more involved, get in touch with me, get in touch with Mary Michael Kelly, our Director of Patient Engagement, and we can help you. I know it can be intimidating, but we have resources to help you get involved.
Great, Kristen. Anna.
So all the issues that we talked about earlier, whether it's step therapy, access to a provider, out-of-pocket costs, I'm just curious, does any of that resonate? Raise your hand if you've experienced that. Healthcare issues. Anybody had perfect healthcare? Like you have all the providers?
Yeah, we'd like to know because you'll be the spokesperson for ideal model of care.
Right.
Does anyone have the perfect care you think?
So that's
not like, well, maybe one person. Okay, we'll be talking to you. So.
But the vast majority of people didn't raise their hand. There's a place for you and a need for you to advocate, and that's why I do what I do. So come visit our booth.
Thanks, Anna. And Andrea.
Yeah, there's clearly a theme going here, right? I was going to say, again, just reiterating, take a moment, just really enjoy this weekend. Again, we have a lot of great topics. Please share your feedback. Please help us get involved, make us get to 24, 25, 26. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is with folks in this room, or even you reach out. I know people will say, oh, I met somebody who my cousin's, neighbor's kid just got diagnosed. So, help be that advocate for the organization and helping to spread the word and connecting them with us. We want to see more people at this meeting next year and years to come as well. So enjoy, everybody, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and I'll just echo, if you're in the room rolling your eyes because you don't want to get involved, still come back to the conference. You don't have to be involved to come to the summit, to go to camp, to be involved. You don't have to be involved. You don't have to be overly involved like some of our volunteers are. You can do one little thing or nothing. You're still welcome. We don't want you to feel you have to be, but by all means, there's an opportunity, an on-ramp, many different ways to be involved, to use your background, expertise, etc. But again, even if you're here for education, connections, and don't want to do anything, we want you still to come and be here at all of our future summits and camps and connect groups, etc. I do want to mention, I wanted to have the senior leaders of the organization this year on the stage with me to share our commitment to juvenile arthritis, but what they all will agree with, that behind them, behind these chairs, are thousands of volunteers that help make what we do happen. It is not just because of the staff, it's thousands of volunteers behind each of these people that help us review stuff, come up with ideas, plan, volunteer, etc. And so it takes a village to make all of this come together in all of our spaces. So truly appreciate the volunteers that also step up. So can we hear for Andrea, Anna, Kristen, Sabrina, and Michael? And you're good. And with that, I have the honor of introducing our next speaker who has awards to be given this morning. That is Liz Smith. Many of you know the Smiths. Steve and Liz Smith have been involved for a number of years with the organization and have been so committed to so many spaces, both in advocacy, JA, and JA Family Summit, JA camps, JA Connect groups, you name it. If JA is in front of it, they've been involved in it. We truly appreciate Steve and Liz's commitment. And of course, Liz has been very involved in our awards committee for a number of years, and she'll be presenting some of our special JA volunteer awards throughout the summit, but this morning she's going to recognize healthcare provider award winners this morning. So please help me welcome Liz Smith.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks. So, good morning. I'm really excited this morning to be able to present the awards for the healthcare providers. The Patty Rettig Award is being given this year to Tami Byklum. She was selected for this award to recognize her unwavering dedication to making a positive impact in the lives of families who are impacted by juvenile arthritis. Tami has volunteered as a camp nurse for many years, providing vital medical support to children at the Arthritis Foundation's camp. In 2022, she stepped up as the medical director role for Camp Sisu in Minnesota, showcasing her enthusiasm and leadership skills to ensure the best possible experience for the campers. Tami is also a devoted parent and active volunteer within the Arthritis Foundation. Drawing from her own personal journey as a parent of a child with arthritis and a healthcare provider, she's able to actively collaborate with medical professionals in North Dakota and Minnesota to enhance the camp experience and overall care for children with rheumatic diseases. Throughout her career, Tami has demonstrated her dedication to ongoing professional development and improving the well-being of children and families. She served as the center nurse and health specialist for Tri-Valley Head Start, which is a program that provides comprehensive educational and health services to children from low-income families. Tami also commits her time to volunteering and supporting the Arthritis Foundation in North Dakota's market. Tami's genuine compassion and commitment to make her a real role model, and we extend our heartfelt congratulations to Tami on receiving this award. Tami unfortunately cannot be here with us today to accept her award in person, as she's preparing now for Camp Sisu, which begins this weekend. But let's give Tami a round of applause, and she really deserves this award. The next award is the Earl Brewer Award, which is given to a pediatric rheumatologist. We are proud to announce that Dr. John Bohnsack is receiving this award this year. As I said, it's for physician leadership. And Earl Brewer, for those of you who don't know, was sort of the founder of pediatric rheumatology. So this is a big deal for him. This award recognizes the extraordinary contributions of Dr. Bohnsack to the care of children with rheumatic diseases. Dr. Bohnsack holds the position of professor and interim chief of the Division of Allergy and Immunology and is vice chair of the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Utah. For decades, he has been a beacon of hope for JA children and families in Utah, serving as the sole pediatric rheumatologist in the state. His tireless dedication and unwavering compassion change the landscape of rheumatic care in a community with very little access. See Anna's map out in the hallway later. In addition to being an extraordinary physician, Dr. Bohnsack's advocacy efforts have been instrumental in improving the care for children with rheumatic diseases. He spearheaded groundbreaking research projects, notably the very first JA genetics research endeavors. This has paved the way for innovative approaches and personalized therapies, offering new hope to young patients and their families. As the leader of the University of Utah's Division of Pediatric Rheumatology, Dr. Bohnsack has been instrumental in establishing the highest recruitment in the CARA JA registry. This registry collects clinical information to help researchers and clinicians understand the disease, track the outcome, and improve patient care. Furthermore, he's been an invaluable advocate and mentor to the younger generation of pediatric rheumatologists, ensuring that his legacy extends far beyond his remarkable achievements. Congratulations to Dr. Bohnsack on this remarkable achievement, and we offer our sincere gratitude for his invaluable contributions to pediatric rheumatology. Dr. Bohnsack was also unable to be here, but let's give him a big round of applause. And now, Abby Brown is going to come back up. You all met her last night with some housekeeping announcements.
Wow. So today's program has been filled with inspiring discussions, empowering stories, and valuable resources. I encourage you all to keep this momentum going by visiting the many exhibits that are located outside of the ballroom to gather even more valuable information and to continue connecting with others. Please remember to be using the meeting app to submit evaluations of the sessions. If you are having any trouble with the meeting app, you can visit our registration desk right outside the doors, and someone there will be able to help you. Once again, thank you all for participating and attending and helping to make this event a success. I look forward to learning more with you all this weekend to make the future look brighter for children with arthritis.